Well, hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daycheck with Queen Bee Creations, and we are going to do a little bit of a flower painting today. It's been a while since I've done a blown flower in alcohol ink, period, let alone shown you guys. And so I want to show a slightly different one than I've done in the past because it doesn't make sense for me to be repeating things. So if you've done some of the alcohol inks with me along the way, this is just adding to the looks and the techniques. Now, we're going to be blowing this. So you could use a straw, you could use a pumper, but for this one, I actually really recommend either that you use canned air, which you can get even from dollar stores. They have this. You're going to find them in the office supplies aisle. It's got the little tiny straw that you attach in here, and then it shoots air out. And it's going to move this better, faster, and in a different way than you could do with a straw or with the pumper. Either of those would work too, so whatever you have. But this is pretty accessible. This is maybe called a keyboard cleaner. I'm going to use this, which is just a little air gun. So you're going to hear that sound. Sorry. But it's the same. Okay, it's just because I have this that I'm using it. If I didn't have it, I'd use this. I have a container with 99% isopropyl alcohol, and then I have some alcohol inks. So in these kind of squarish containers, these are T-Rex. If I use a round container, then that is probably either Pinata or Ranger. So, you know, yeah, Ranger. So really, whatever you have, if you have them, use whatever. And then of course, alcohol ink paper, which is going to be either like a plastic paper, plastic coated, it's non-porous. You want the inks to move across the surface, not get absorbed into the paper. Most photo papers are designed to absorb ink, to hold the color in them, so they do not work. Even though they seem glossy and they seem like they should, they don't. So, you know, when you drop the ink, instead of it sitting on the top, it's going to form a hard circle. I'm going to take you in overhead so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I think that there's not as much explanation required as we go here as when you're just kind of watching. You're going to see sometimes that I just drop the ink and blow the ink. Sometimes I add alcohol to dilute it and move it more. It's just, you know, whatever's working on the design. If I need to soften it, whatever. This is just a made up flower. So don't start wondering, well, what kind of flower is that? It's just one in my head. And so I'm using weird, not always flower colors. It's okay. It's your flower. You can do what you want. So let me bring you in over top and we'll get started. I'm going to be working from kind of slightly above midpoint, maybe 2/3 of the way up on an angle. So I want my flower angling off the page that way. So you're going to see that there's some times that I'm going to blow, maybe I move the paper. You know, don't be afraid to move your paper in ways that make sense. Now, I'm going to start with a fairly light color. This is a T-Rex in Wisteria. I have T-Rex Purple Iris and Monsoon, and maybe a Sea Glass for green. You know, that's what I'm starting with, but who knows where I go with that. And I got my alcohol. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that I'm angling this in different directions, and the way I blow it, the way I follow it out makes a difference to how it moves. Okay, that's a little pinkier than I wanted, so let's switch. That was the wisteria. Let's switch to the purple iris. And let's not dilute it. These colors will all blend together and end up moving together on your page. So they will kind of overlap. Okay, I want this to move up here and kind of deal with that pinkiness. And I've got paper laid down underneath this because alcohol inks do stain. So I want to prevent them from staining my table surface. Now, because these are somewhat translucent, you can see how they sort of start laying over themselves a little bit. So you can get a bit of a layered effect on these. And because I don't want really heavy lines or drips, I am chasing the ink off the page. So just trying to keep it soft. So sometimes when I'm dropping my ink, I kind of drag it in the direction that I want it to go. And you can see that that helps kind of direct the flow of that ink. Now, very often I two-tone this, but I'm quite liking that purple, but I do want to go with a slightly darker color kind of in the base area. So I'm going to go Monsoon, which is definitely a darker color. You didn't quite move where I wanted you to. The back of your page, by the way, gets kind of grungy, but don't worry about it. Nobody sees the back. All right, so I got spatter because I was too heavy-handed with my air there, but it'll be okay. If you want, you can take, I'm just doing some alcohol on my cloth, and you can wipe that away. Okay, I don't want to disturb my line, and it'll be okay because I still have more going that way. But you see how this was a harsh line because I just dropped the ink and then blew it, and this kind of rippled in and became part of it. That's what I'm after. So I need to actually do that again on this side with a bit of my alcohol. Let it seep a bit, and then more gently begin blowing it out. I just want maybe coming from the base, just a little soft one coming up. And you can just keep playing with your colors, adding more where you want it, right? softening it out more where you're thinking, oh, okay, I lost a bit of that color. I want to layer that over. You can completely soften it by just adding your alcohol. See how that starts to bleed a bunch of that color out and soften it out entirely where maybe you got it a little too harsh. And then you can add new color in. Okay, now I do want a little bit of green happening here. So I think I'll take it here. And that's now I decided I started that way too close to that corner. So I am now just gonna start to extend it down further. And that's okay. We can course correct with this, no problem. So I'm gonna start adding some of my purples in and creating some of my flower going up. It's gonna take some of those colors out, build some of my blue and my green down and below, just like I did before. So don't ever think that everything has to be a mistake and ditch it. Everything can get saved. Now, once I have the flower how I like it, I can either do a drop and blow a stem, or I can take what are called, I'm just looking for a color that might work. Hard to tell. Well, let's try olive green. I think that this is going to be, oh, that's pretty close. And I can draw my stem. Oh, that is awesome how close that is. Now, these react with alcohol the same as my inks do. They're just a little better about being placed somewhere. Now you can add, these are double-ended, so fat end, chisel end, and pointy end. But you can add other inks in there and other colors that are gonna kind of separate that a little bit, but give you a slightly little bit more interesting look, because the alcohol in the pens starts to react with the alcohol on your page. So you get a little bit more definition happening down along here. Your stem isn't just one note. The other thing that you can do is you can decide, okay, you know what? I want a leaf. So I can take my pens And I can take those two color tones that I had happening. Doesn't look like much, I know, just bear with me. And then you can take your alcohol and blow that leaf out. Now that's going more than I want upward. So let me take a little bit of that away. Now this means I don't get a great ending here. So what I do want to do is maybe take that out just a little further. There we go. Better, better, better. And then I can add more to it if I want, if I need. If I just want to have a little bit more happening. So I'm blowing it more slowly so the ink has a chance to, the alcohol has a chance to react with the inks that are there. And then I can go back in here and I can create more of my stem again. Now, that's a little bit harsher because I had some of my alcohol still there. Maybe I want another leaf. Now, here's where you can play with these. You can create a little bit more depth. Now, this is, again, alcohol ink that I'm applying. So it will move some of that a little bit, but I can go in and add a little bit of depth here and there if I want to. I could, this is like a little blending brush, so I can take things away with this, soften it out a little bit. See how that's starting to create a little bit of a line in there, so it doesn't look so harsh. So the play gets to continue. Now, if you want this to be just a pure alcohol ink painting, you could stop here, or you could take some little fine gel pens and you could add in a little bit of differentiation here and there if you want. You can do it with white, you could do it with the black. I have to tell you, for something like this, I tend to leave it really pretty organic looking. I don't tend to add a lot of definition. I might do a little bit to just kind of help people see a leaf coming off here. So you can see maybe how fine that line is. I'm really just kind of helping to define the sweep of it more than anything else, and I'm not doing a major bit. You may find with your alcohol inks that you just need to kind of roll your pen off a little bit to clean it off. But now, once your painting is finished, how you like, then I leave this to dry thoroughly. It's dry to the touch, a little bit tacky in spots, but I want all of the alcohol to have evaporated off of it. And then I will take an archival UV resistant, this is Krylon, UV archival varnish. And then I will lightly mist it. Alcohol inks are UV susceptible, which means in the light, in the sunlight, they're going to start to fade. So you want to preserve the work that you've done, spray this. This is not cheap. I got this off Amazon. It's not cheap, but you're not using a lot. You're not having it drip. You're just using a little bit in order to be able to seal and protect it. Let that dry thoroughly, and then you can frame your masterpiece. You know what? This is so satisfying. This is so much fun using alcohol inks. You could see how easy it was to wipe away things that I didn't like. You could see how, oh, that started way too high. So I just started going lower and blowing more alcohol inks over what I'd already done. And I actually like how we got that layering of color in here as a result. So don't ever think that you're stuck with what you've got, because you know this paper is porous. These can still be reactivated with alcohol. I can douse it and wipe it and go again. So if you've got decent paper, you're never stuck. If you're using paper that's absorbing your inks, you're never going to be able to wipe it fully away. Which doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad place to practice, but this is infinitely easier to practice on, just because. So I hope that you give this a try. I hope just doing something that goes off center and off the page is kind of freeing. You're not left with trying to make something fit within the space, and you're just playing. You're playing with colors and you're doing some blowing. And don't overlook the beauty of using this stuff, right? Again, my dollar store carries it. So it's just an easy way to be able to do that blowing. The only thing that I would suggest is if you're buying one can, buy two. Because when you're using it, this gets really cold. So when it gets really cold to handle, switch to the other can, and then you can keep going, right? You can switch back and forth. And it just is more comfortable for your hand. It's not necessary, but dollar store, right? Let me know what you think of this one, guys. Let me know if you're going to give it a try. Certainly let me know if you've got questions. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.